all you listeners out there. This is Michael Berryman, and you're listening to the Movie Rage Show.
It's time for the Movie Rage, and tonight's victim is actor Michael Berryman, that played in countless films such as the original Hills Have Eyes, countless others. Hello.
Hello there.
So what's going on with you before this upcoming ritual of Halloween?
Well, before Halloween, I'm trying to sell my house. Well, that is actually true, but what's going on? I'm going to be in Burbank, California, and this coming weekend for the Monster Palooza show. It's a signing show. A movie lined up in November, waiting for finalization on that. But I did wrap a movie with a bunch of my buddies, Bill Moseley and Kane Hodder, and a couple other rebellious kind of guys. The movie's called Death House. It was actually originally written by Gunnar Hansen, who passed away recently, about the same time Wes Craven did. And I am one of the 5 evils in me.
Just to sum that up, that's basically like the Expendables with all these horror icons, isn't it?
That's what they're calling it. Yes, they are calling it that. Yes, they are.
I'm definitely looking forward to that one.
Yeah, it should be fun.
Now, for someone that's played in so many horror-based characters, what would you consider to portray your art toward the audiences? How would you consider that, or how would you portray that to show the audiences that has never seen you before?
You mean as a performance, as a role that is in a horror film?
Yes.
My personal thoughts on horror, that we can turn on the television and see horror 24/7. Even back in the days when there was only 6 channels and it was in black and white. And the images that I saw as a child and that people have seen throughout their life over many decades, it's very damaging to the human psyche. And I believe that humanity can rise above and out of and through such carnage and horrible choices and behaviors. And the only way to do that is to get all that crap out of your head, your heart, out of your spirit, out of your experience. And I believe that horror films can do that. I'm not talking about splatter films. I'm talking about horror films.
Yeah, and to this day and age, it's considered to be, so grotesque, so wrong for children and so forth. But yet, it's like the opposite. Some people try to get away from reality, but even though we live all the way around this type of horror every day on a daily basis.
Very true. That's very true. I was on the last Morton Downey Jr. show, and I believe Elvira was with me, and there's a couple other people on the panel. And the topic of discussion was, should actors that portray roles in horror films be arrested and prosecuted if people see those films and do copycats? That was a pretty interesting point of conversation.
Well, look at Scream. Remember when they were making masks since that came out?
Of course. The response to that is apparent. There are certain realms of, quote, entertainment that go beyond the pale. I just think they're grotesque and disgusting. The reason I continue, I've done what I've done for over 40 years, and I've done films from comedy to science fiction, the whole gambit, but we're talking about horror films. Well, I remember the scary, the classics. I used to watch Schiller Theater, Thriller. I got to meet Rod Serling, Twilight Zone creator. I remember watching Frankenstein, Wolfman, Dracula, etc. There becomes a situation where you have empathy to the monster. And what that empathy is the question of where do you draw the line in your choices and your value system. Over many decades, other films came about that were just more, shocking and scaring. Well, I'll be very honest. When I saw The Exorcist, I actually, just in case, got on my knees and said my prayers, even though I had left Catholicism years ago for various reasons, just in case. I remember being, as a kid, watching The Mummy or something. I would always look under the bed before I, went to sleep. You've seen a very effective horror film if you leave a hall light on, or you sleep with one eye open. But carnage for carnage's sake, I consider it splatter porn. I'm not a big fan. Now, don't get me wrong. There are scenes in movies where heads explode and, certain things. But when it becomes just more and more and more of how gross can we make it, you lose something. It's called a story. This is the art of storytelling.
Yeah, which brings to the point that when it comes to these new age horror films from, let's say, from the 2000s all the way up to now, do you think they mainly adapted opposed to the older horror films way back when they even started, or do you think they've actually evolved a little bit better?
Well, there's a huge range. Some of the ones that get distributed by larger distribution companies, they're in it for the buck. It depends. I mean, there's a lot out there. I go to about 6 to 8 independent small film festivals every year, and I encourage your listeners to do the same. Because, number one, you'll never see them on a DVD, maybe at a film festival. You hardly ever see them on Amazon or in the theater or on cable. But some of them are people starting out, of course. They're incredible. When I'm doing a signing at a film festival, I'm kind of bummed out slightly because, well, I'm there for the fans and to be there for them. But I would like to have about 3 of me so I can see them all. And it would be wonderful, I felt, and I've mentioned this to people that put on these shows, that if you could take all of those independent shorts and put them on a disc so we could all see them, it would be fantastic. But there's way too much litigation and contracts and protection, etc., to facilitate such. So I strongly recommend in your travels or in your local zip code, there's a film festival. Check it out. I mean, especially the shorts. Put something together in an 8 to 12 minute format, and it's very challenging. It's very, very rewarding. I think it's very artistic. I'm a big fan. It's just like, number one, I believe artists and writers and creators should be able to profit from their efforts and not be ripped off, number one. And number two, I encourage people to tell their own stories, and you should, even if it's local. If you don't get distribution or an Oscar, it's okay, because it's something humans have done forever. I mean, go back to when somebody started a fire, and there's other humans around the fire, they're sharing food, and what else do? They share stories. What happened today? Well, I was going to go, bring home what we're eating now, and this other critter, bigger and more dangerous, almost killed me, so I'm going to tell you a story. There you go.
As we go more and more throughout the years, and all more and more slew of horror films, slew of remakes of the horror films, reboots, and so forth, it seems like the support from other realms within the film industry is dwindling down because it's, of course, the money, the whole thing. But you think, are we losing support from the audience too?
No. I believe that the artists are. We're always, we have something now called GoFundMe. There are artists want their art out there. They want to express themselves, and they want to share it. Now, the ability to do that, a lot of it is controlled by the industry. If you're investing in a film and you don't really care about the story or the characters or what happens, like here's an example of a bad horror film. I'll name the name, The Hills Have Eyes Remake. I'm sorry, the beginning was kind of intriguing, and it turned into chase, kill, and isn't this a clever way to dispatch of somebody? Now, when I see that type of storyline, I go, wow, they had a production meeting and a bunch of investors came together that don't know anything about art or the art of storytelling or film, and they just go, well, and these 5 movies, for instance, we checked their revenues and they all made money, and here's the things that shocked and rocked people. Let's put those elements in our movie. So they kind of cut and paste together a story, and it has no cohesiveness at all. If you're going to do that, be honest. Do Sharknado. It's honest. It's fun, it's campy, it's silly, but it's honest, I thought that after in the Hills Have Eyes remake, the opening I thought was very intriguing, really kept my interest. The atomic test site, etc., pretty darn cool. I'm sorry, but when the weekend warriors were coming out of the tunnel and the cave, there was that metal thing with the spikies. You could see it was CGI'd, and it just turned into chase kill and got really stupid. I actually walked out of the screen. I said, "This is just ridiculous." And then when you have way too much blood and splatter, and if you're going to do that, then do it campy. Do it with some humor, like I want to say Freak Show. There's a better example. Help me out.
Evil Dead.
Evil Dead. Thank you. And by the way, in Evil Dead, there's a Hills Have Eyes poster of with me, Pluto, in the cabin on the wall. And when we did the Hills Have Eyes original in the trailer, what did we have a picture of after I supposedly tried to rape Susan Lanier, Brenda? Jaws. Those are directors getting their start and paying homage to one another. That's the realm you want to be in. But if you're just trying to shock and your audience is 13-year-old pubescent adolescents, that's kind of a limited audience. And audiences are not dumb. I actually, years ago when I was at conventions, I would say, anybody that shows me a library card gets a free autographed picture. Well, hell, I lost like $300 in an hour. I said, well, I stopped saying that. I've met people at hotels that didn't know what was going on. I go, well, check it out. I go, oh, it's gory and icky and scary. I go, no, these are intelligent people that have families. They put their kids through school. They're actually, paying their mortgage and making sure they have health insurance. Are you kidding me? These are regular people. If you want to be around a bunch of jerks, go to a sports celebrity show. You'll see a lot of good people, men and women, doing great things, but the majority of them are just ego-frenzied, adore me kind of people. And celebrity status doesn't mean a damn thing to me. Met some famous people. When I was doing The Crow, I was having a wardrobe fitting, and I sat for an hour and had a lovely conversation with Paul Newman. I got involved with his charities, especially the Bogey Creek Hole in the Wall gang, General Schwarzkopf and Arnold Palmer and Paul Newman. They find families of children in need who have horrific birth defects of their above the neck, their face, their skull, and they give them the corrective surgery they need, and they pay for it all. You see, that is a good reason to be famous. But if you're a Kardashian, or I can name a whole bunch of names, and bling this and bling that, lifestyles of the rich and famous, who gives a damn? I don't. I judge a man or woman by the character of their choices and decisions. I mean, I see advertisements for the Jaguars. Nice cars. All these nice, wonderful, fancy cars, $60,000, $100,000. Who cares? You can only do legally 70 miles an hour. It's ego. It's called salesmanship.
And when you put them into other films, it becomes senseless because, okay, well, yeah, this person is a good actor and all these other films, but it's not really necessary to put him in every single film that may not cater to the role that he plays or he or she plays.
That's very true, and I know everyone in my family of horror stars, for instance, and sometimes we actually take a shitty role because we have bills to pay. We're real people. Imagine that. But golly gee whiz.
And some people refuse, or not really refuse, but some people kind of stay away from the big companies because it seems the further you go through these big companies, the worse things you're going to get into, especially if you're just now getting to these companies. It seems that they take advantage of them and just throw them wherever, and you basically didn't prepare or actually even look into it.
Oh, well, there you go. That's the key, looking into it. Number one, you have a script. Okay, here's a perfect example. A movie, I don't remember the title of it. I don't know if it ever got distributed. It was in Wisconsin, and cabin in the woods kind of thing, and the kids are there, and bad things happen, and then some people die, and then the remaining people they deal with it, and they kill the bad guy. Okay, that's pretty standard stuff. Well, I get this script, and I read it, and I'm the bad guy, and I'm supposed to be doing something very, very, very wrong to a young lady. And then they wanted me to say a few words, and the implications were like, really? We're not doing that. I said, now we can do it in a certain manner that is after the fact, that implies particular action or violence, but we're not going to go graphic. And then that way, when I step out of the way, there's the young lady, and she can have the camera on her and the close-up, and she can act. You want to see the act? No. So we had a discussion, and we said, well, yeah, that's a better way to go, Michael. So I said, by the way, I'm recording all of this. I have your permission, right? And they go, yeah, sure. All right, great. And agreement, I flew out to Wisconsin. I arrived. They asked me if I wanted to go visit the set, and I said, of course. You guys are working nights. This is my travel day. I want to rest up tonight, and tomorrow we start working. Of course, I'd love to, say hi to everybody, and since we've changed a few scenes to make them better, and I show up, and then the director and producer go, okay, well, we're going to shoot that scene tonight. I go, really? And I go, could you clear everybody out of the room, please, and just me, you, the producer, and the writer, and you, the director, and the actress, please. Clear the room. We're all sitting there having a meeting, and I go, all right, here's what's going to happen. Number one, here's my Screen Actors Guild contract. This is my travel day. I'm here just as a courtesy to say hello to everybody. Let's make a good shoot. Number two, we're not going to do it the way you want to do it the original way, because here's my tape recorder. I'm pushing play. Now, the actress hears all of this and realizes that she's being used. She's being taken advantage of. Once they wrap and they're done and it's in the can, honey, they don't care about you anymore. They already got you. And she was flipping out. And she's like, whoa. And they go, well, you're being difficult. I said, no, I'm not. I'm being honest to my word, and yours, by the way. and I could make a phone call right now and have you shut down. What would you like to do? Well, we're going to fly you home tomorrow. This is great. Then you're in breach of contract, and I expect a full check, payment in full, as per my contract, before I get on the plane tomorrow morning. Have a nice night. Now, all of that happened. I get home. About 2 weeks later, one of the camera operators called me up and said, "Hey, I want to let you know that we wrapped." I go, "How'd it go?" And he goes, "Well, they got somebody to replace you. They took her out, wined her and dined her, and promised her the moon, and she complied, and they did it the old horrible way." I says, "Well, how does that make you feel?" I didn't say that, but and then what happened? He goes, "Oh, they got what they wanted, and they I don't know if they stiffed her or didn't pay her or whatever." But my point is, if you don't draw a line, someone else will draw it for you. The best scary stuff is that which is unknown and implied. Like Hitchcock, a good movie, you don't see the monster until the very end. It's all about tension, you know? I mean, I see stuff on the internet, and I don't tweet. Homie don't tweet. And people can't even spell words right. I talk to teachers all the time. I do a lot of programs for schools, and they go, "Kids don't even have pen and paper. It's all on a device. They don't even know what a dictionary is. They do word check." That's pretty freaking sad.
Yeah, it is.
College, first thing I had to take was library science. How to go to a library, go to the stacks, and know what a research library is. Reader's Guide to Periodical Literature, stuff like that. But I meet some of the most intelligent, educated people. A lot of them are teachers that go to horror conventions. It's a good thing.
It is a sad thing with everything that we've so much evolved with all this other stuff, and to the point where students of film a little bit getting away with what they were trying to focus in the first place. Focus is off and on, in terms of it's almost a battle, and it shouldn't be a battle of focus, and it should be something that you need to enlight.
It's true. Well, it's like, there's the music industry, rock and roll. I like folk music. A lot of the great bands from the '60s. I saw almost all of them. It's incredible. And the biggest key was good songwriting, good lyrics, good notes, good harmonies, good excellent proficiency with your instruments, that kind of stuff. And then in the '80s, let's blame it on disco. I would love to blame it on disco. Disco, I feel, was the beginning of the downfall of art. And I had a friend whose father was a very famous TV actor, and when disco was happening, there was a place in Westwood Village near UCLA, and it was called Dylan's. It was the hot spot for disco. And I went to my buddies up to the booth. He was the Rocket Man. He was going to college, to UCLA, and he put on a helmet and a jetpack, and sparklers would come out of the back, and they would cable him from one part of the ceiling to his booth, and all the rich, college, UCLA, USC, etc., go, "Hey, look at that stupid so-and-so." Well, yeah, you know what? He was paying his way through college. And I go, "Wow, they make fun of you. What do you think about that?" And he goes, "No problem. You wait." They're drinking and doing other things as the night progresses before 2 a.m. and they have to leave. Watch. I'll phase the disco beat, which is the same beat nonstop that never stops. And he would phase it faster and slower and control them. They didn't even know it. So where's the irony? I'd say the irony is not knowing who you are. The irony is not knowing how you can become your own individual person and make your own choices. And put that into many, many, many realms of where we are today as a society. There's a very famous, to the listeners, I highly, highly recommend. The most important book I ever read in college was from an art professor. It's called Understanding Media. The author is Marshall McLuhan, Canadian, a futurist thinker, philosopher, writer. Read it. As an example, in the book, it talks about what it was like back in the day when people used to write books. Pen and ink on parchment. Only the wealthy could have a book. Everybody else was uneducated. A guy by the name of Gutenberg made the printing press. It was huge. It was like the internet, but even more so. Now the peasants and those that are controlled can have knowledge. Before there was written word, there was spoken word, stories, and songs. They were called folk songs. So when we detach ourselves from our traditions and we despise that which has come before us, it puts us, I believe, in jeopardy as a society. And honestly, When I got to meet Rod Serling one night, we talked for about 45 minutes about these types of comments and why his writing stands so strong today. I know people that can't stand Star Trek. Well, you know what? There are a lot of good stories there. Go back to the writing. It all starts with an idea. So I recommend Blake Sheldon, Save the Cat. Want to learn how to write? Don't believe everything on the internet. And if you have to tweet, stop it. If you have that limited a vocabulary, maybe you're being controlled. Maybe you're being manipulated. Maybe you're being trained and conditioned to be not a very deep thinker. Maybe, just maybe, you're a lab experiment. Shock the monkey. Think about it.
That is actor Michael Berryman. You have anything else to say? Anything when you plug in? Any websites? Any new projects you want to get out there? And go ahead and mention where you're heading in a couple weeks or months.
You betcha. I'm writing my autobiography. I hope to have it done by Christmas. I am going to be at Monsterpalooza September 16th through the 18th in Burbank, California. After that, I will be in October 13th to the 15th at the Idaho Horror Film Festival. And my very dear friend Andrew Getty, 10 years ago we made a movie called Storyteller, starring myself, Sean Patrick Flannery, Dina Myers, and Fred Kohler. The only film my dear friend made before he passed away. Brilliant. Death House, director Fred Harrison. It's written by, originally, concept by Gunnar Hansen. And, of course, in May, I'll be at the Texas Frightmare, May 5th through 7th, for state of Texas. That's about it. Please go to my Facebook page and please call your congressman or email him or tweet them, because it's hard to make phone calls anymore, about the native lands in the Dakotas where they're running that pipeline. There is an injunction at this point. But please check it out. Make a difference. So I wish you all the best. Tomorrow's the next best day of your life. Make a difference and be kind to one another.